North Smithfield Town Council meeting, June 16, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you start us with prayer and pledge, please?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in a fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Here.
Mr. Christopherow?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Here. Mr. Punchak?
Here.
Ms. Alves?
Here. Anyone want to sign up for open forum before we start? Anyone? I'm sorry, is it Jim Orban?
Yeah, so I was typing it ready.
It's okay. Can you just state your name and address when you get up to the podium?
Yeah, James Aubin, 158 Cider Mill.
And it'll be 3 minutes, okay?
Yeah, I didn't have much to say. I just made a petition, and I have 63 signatures in support of the resolution now, so I just wanted to submit that, if you don't mind. And while I'm here, maybe someone could just answer this question for me. So, all the people that really want the Second Amendment ban, sorry, out of breath. Got a baby. I'm like always out of shape these days. But they're the same ones that keep saying there's a tyrant in the White House. And that's why we have the Second Amendment, to protect us from tyrants. So don't we need our guns to protect ourselves? No one can ever answer that question for me, so maybe today. But thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move an item up tonight. Discussion by council vote or other action. Discussion, vote, or other action on resolution regarding opposition to Rhode Island 2024 gun control legislation. Mr. Beauregard and Mr. Punchak.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's very unusual where we get this many people in a room on one topic, and it's much appreciated to show your support. I'd also like to thank Councilman Punchak for co-sponsoring this with me. I think it's a very important agenda item. And anyway, I prepared a couple of comments. Just bear with me. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget anything. I'm not a big, unlike a lot of you in here, I'm not a really big gun enthusiast. I probably shoot twice a year, once when I requalify for my carry permit with the state police, and then once when I practice to qualify for my carry permit with the state police. But I am a very big enthusiast of the United States Constitution. And like former Justice Scalia said, I don't believe the Constitution is a living, breathing document. It says what it says, and it does not say what it does not say. And it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We don't get to cherry pick the parts of the Constitution we like and we don't like. At our swearing-in ceremony this past December, we took an oath to uphold the Rhode Island Constitution and the United States Constitution. Our representatives in the House and the Senate also took a similar oath. I urge our state senators to remember that oath when they vote on the Senate bill. Even the Rhode Island Constitution provides the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I also believe that gun laws like this affects only the law-abiding citizens. It ties the hands of law-abiding gun owners. The criminals are still going to do what they want. These laws are being passed by the same politicians who believe criminals are victims. This has more to do with an agenda than it does gun safety. They are disarming the general public and making it more difficult for good people to defend themselves, basically turning people into potential victims. The evil members of society will always find a way to do evil. Mr. Punchak, did you want to have anything to add to that?
Ditto. So I just want to say, so I did catch some, flack for co-sponsoring this with Councilman Beauregard. However, I did think that it was an important issue that may not have made it onto an agenda if I did not co-sponsor it. So I wanted to, give both sides the opportunity to, have their voices heard. And this is the opportunity for both sides to have their voices heard. So I wanted to make sure that, that was done, and here we are. So that was, my whole point of putting it on the agenda, whether I own 0 guns, 1 gun, 2 guns, or I think I'm up to 15 on the socials now. Nobody's business. It isn't. So, it's your business, though, to have your voices heard at the state. So that's why, I wanted to make sure that everyone had their opportunity to speak.
As a woman, I feel everyone has a right as our Constitution guarantees it. I'm around the corner, going up and not the other way, but I can assure you, I know how to use a rifle. Because of young grandkids, we've gotten rid of a lot of the handguns after my husband died. But I will keep it in my home. I hope I don't ever have to use it, but if I have to, I will.
Anyone else?
I'm more than happy to weigh in here. When I saw that this item was on the agenda tonight, I want everybody to know that I did a lot to educate myself on both essentially sides of this argument. I realize that Rhode Island has the lowest amount of gun-related deaths in the country. I also did some research to understand gun violence 2024, the gun violence report. And I do realize that about 63% of gun violence crimes were charges where essentially people had illegal possession of firearms. So I do realize that the majority of gun violence that occurs within this state is obviously not as a result of law-abiding citizens that maybe safely store their guns and practice all of the laws appropriately. I will say, on the other side of this, I am a mother of a young child. I do worry every day based on the media that we see of gun violence and school shootings that is a real thing. And it is not necessarily as a result of law-abiding citizens. It is a result of guns getting into the hands of the wrong people, especially given that we have a very systemic issue in this country related to mental health illness that is not addressed, at least addressed appropriately at the country level. So I do, as a mother, have very real fears of my child going to school every day and having to worry about mass shootings being a reality, as I'm sure a lot of other parents and grandparents in this room also fear. I am not about restricting anybody's, constitutional rights, but I will say that I have very real fears as a parent, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room do today. I do appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate, seeing the engagement here. But again, and I think that this is a very polarized topic. It's a very controversial and complex topic. So I appreciate that we can talk about it civilly. And I know that, regardless of whether or not we have differing opinions, that everybody hopefully can respect my position as a parent. Thank you.
I just kind of want to piggyback on what Rebecca was talking about. Since this came out, obviously doing as much reading and getting educated as much as possible regarding what was happening. But I also question to why it's on the town level. Once the state gets to it, I understand you want to tell everybody how the town feels as itself, but once the state votes, it's really a moot point for us. But putting us in this position of our opinions or how we feel about gun control and is just really difficult, because obviously we're all going to have different views on this. So if you want to do a motion or.
Yeah, I just want to say that there were, the reason it was put on the agenda was just to send a message to the State House. There were, 15 other cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island that passed this exact resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I chose to put up. And and I apologize for coming on at such a late time, and this is such a busy time for us because this is a time, budget time and things. But the vote could very well take place this week. So I just want to make sure that we get our vote in before the Senate hears it.
Got it.
May I ask our town solicitor a few questions in relation to the resolution? David, this resolution is essentially a stance or the town council's position on the assault weapons ban that's currently being discussed at the Senate, or potentially being discussed at the Senate, correct? It is not, this does not preclude us from the law in the event that this law is passed.
Does not preclude you
It
from
means
the law?
that North Smithfield still has to follow the law.
Of course,
As passed at the
absolutely.
state level. Okay, thank you. And in your experience, town solicitor, how often do you see that resolutions that are passed at the town level truly influence the state's decisions?
Depends on the issue.
Okay,
If it's a local issue, it's critical to their decision. And when it's a statewide issue, it's just part of their package of consideration.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything else they want to add?
Madam President, if nobody else has anything else, I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution of the town of North Smithfield in opposition to Rhode Island 2024 gun control legislation.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can I just make one comment in the resolution? There is a grammatical error in the very first sentence. Do you have it there, David or Joanne?
I have it.
You have it. Very first sentence, Rhode Island statute and the town of Lincoln charter. Needs to be town of North Smithfield charter.
A little cut and paste.
That's all.
That's it?
That's it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Respectfully, no.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Absolutely yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
No.
Pass.
Now we get to the good stuff.
Please stay.
Yes.
We can take like a 5-minute recess if anyone wants to leave before we go on to the budget, or unless everyone wants to stay for the budget.
Yeah, you're here. Stick around.
Thank you.
Going back to the agenda, so North Smithfield Town Council sitting as Board of License Commissioners, discussion by council vote or other action on solicitation license renewal by Anderson. Is there anyone here for that?
Yes.
Okay, did you want to go up to the podium, please? Could you state your name and address, please?
Hernan Avila, 10 Reservoir Road, Smithfield, Rhode Island, 02917.
Madam Clerk, is everything in, everything's all set?
Yes, all set.
Okay. And this is just going
Yeah.
house to house for,
Door to door for free prices, I'm sorry.
all right, anyone have any other questions?
No, but can you please stop at my house because one of my Anderson windows is broken?
Yes,
So I would
of course.
really love to get it looked at.
No problem.
Thank you, of course.
Can I say one thing, guys?
Go ahead.
If anyone does have any time, like a few minutes to spare, that's what I do. I set up an appointment for a consultation for a better day. So if you want, I mean, I can see you after this.
I can come by the house,
Okay, all right, sorry.
You got a card?
Yeah, I have a
Bring your
card.
card.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to give it to her afterwards, or?
You can give it to her right
Okay.
now.
I have an extra one here if anyone wants one.
I'm good.
It's already selling, look at it.
One more. Okay, I'll get yours. I'll get the number from you.
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
Is there any fees for soliciting in the town?
Am I still allowed to vote?
Yeah.
I have a
Sure
new
waited.
roof, I'll have the
Whenever
window.
you guys call, I'll be available anytime. It'll just be finding a good time that works for you.
I get up about 4:30, you'll be up?
The earliest I'm up is 8:30.
Oh, God.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Oh, God, never.
Does anyone have any other questions?
No.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the solicitation license for renewal by Anderson.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would I be all set like tomorrow? I just call the police station and I'm basically all good, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you guys. Everyone have a good day, okay?
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Discussion by council vote or other action on peddler/hawker license, New England novelty. Good
Ed
evening.
McMahon, Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Can you repeat that, please?
Ed McMahon, Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Okay. And Joanne, everything's in order? Anyone have any questions?
So this is for the fireworks, pumpkin festival, anything else?
Right, the regular festivals that you have yearly, you know. Novelties such as, you know, light up, stuff like that, yeah.
He's been before us many times.
Now, the applicant is Keith Lambert, right?
Keith Lambert, right, it's his company.
Okay. All right, does anyone have any other questions?
No.
Like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the peddler hawker license for New England novelty.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes, you're all set.
All right, thank you.
Before we go to the next thing, can I ask a question about licensing in general? So, I have a question, Joanne, maybe you can answer this. So we, you know, seems like we do these licenses almost every meeting. What happens if you have someone knock on your door and they're not licensed? Is there like a fine for that? Is there like, do these people get like a card that says, I have this license? Are they supposed to carry something? Like, how does it monitored? How is it policed?
Well, we're kind of in the process of trying to figure that out.
Okay.
We do get a call sometimes. A resident may give us a call and say there's someone coming around, and we check on the system, make sure there is a license. If there's not, we do have the inspector go out, building zoning inspector. But it's usually word of mouth that we would hear that a business opened or something like that. But other than that, we don't.
So if the zoning inspector goes out and finds somebody, is there a fine associated with it to get the license?
Yeah.
So like 3 strikes, they'd be out maybe, or just try to give them the benefit of the doubt?
I do believe it probably says
They-
somewhere in
The
the ordinance
ordinance.
or charter that
We are
Alright.
working on that right now. We're actually going
Okay.
to start something, yeah.
All righty, thank you.
Discussion by council vote or other action on FY 25-26 budget. Public hearing. Anyone want to make a motion to open the public hearing?
I will make a motion to open the public hearing for the 2025-2026 budget.
I'll second.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. South.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions on the budget?
Good evening.
Evening.
I have just a request after consulting with Tony. Our spare engine is out of service, and we had an amendment to the budget back in April to have an engine rebuild. At that time, the cost was $23,559.51, and that's currently the amount that's in the budget. That quote was given to us back in April. Now that we're approaching the time to have the work done, the cost of the parts has increased by $3,378.71. So that brings that new total for the repair up to $26,938.22. So if that's possible, I'd like the council to consider increasing my vehicle maintenance budget by that amount so that we can have that repair made in July.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments around the budget?
Ray Pendergast, Director of Public Works. A slight change under the DPW section, 4310, let me get my glasses, hold on. 50350, software and licenses. We've been notified by one of our vendors, Mitchell One Diagnostics, that the price has increased to $5,916. Presently, under the budget that's been presented previous is $3,156. So if we could adjust that amount for that diagnostic tool we use.
What's the new amount again?
The new number is $5,916. And the only other, I don't have the number in front of me, the finance probably could do this, is under animal control, we're going to be moving away from the supervisor position, which I believe is the number you have under that line item, and we're going back to the animal control officer designation, which is about the same amount of money as a truck driver and highway, which I don't have that number right now, but that is something that you should keep in mind because that position is going to be posted shortly, and we'll be moving in that direction. So there'll be no need to have a supervisory position there.
So in that department, it will just be the animal control?
Just the animal control officer, not the animal control officer supervisor. We're gonna.
That's already reflected in the.
Is that already
Yep.
reflected?
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys
Okay.
should see the, it's not, if you look at the salaries, it's not a full 3.25, it's less because the decrease in the type of position.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And then, if I can add, so a couple things if I can add. So, we've just been, we were notified maybe a few weeks ago that eFinances is requiring a upgrade to a new system. It's gonna cost about $8,500. That will be in software and licenses for finance. Any changes that the department heads, including myself, are requesting, if you would like, I can put those changes in the budget for when I give it to you and highlight them, that those changes have been made, so you guys can see what it would look like if those changes are included.
That'd be great. That'd be
Okay.
helpful. So this is a new upgrade this year?
It's going, yeah, for fiscal year 26. Same system, just an upgraded version.
And when would that take place?
As soon as the fiscal year starts, we're going to start that. Well, they're probably late July, just so we can roll in and get everything situated, but.
Anyone else from the public have any questions on the budget? Go ahead.
Hi, I wrote some notes down too. So I'm Mike Davis. I'm on the budget committee this year, but I'm just speaking as myself tonight. I just wanted to say that I, along with the rest of the committee, we spent countless Thursdays, Thursday nights analyzing the proposed budget, meeting with department heads, the administrator, all with the intention of providing a budget that meets the needs of the town and remaining fair to the taxpayers. At the last meeting, I felt it was suggested that the budget committee prepared like an independent version of the budget that wasn't really with collaboration, but I just wanted to clarify that it's not really accurate. We met every week with Tony, the finance director, who I think is a key part of the administration. He provided us real-time updates, changes to the budget, and we took those promptly and adjusted our proposal. Things such as health insurance rates, IT costs that you can see are continuing, and adjustments to the fire department expenses. So I do agree that collaboration is really important, and I think that we demonstrated that. I also believe that it's essential that the budget committee plays an independent role and provides recommendations from maybe a different perspective that would more closely to the taxpayers. Just to highlight a couple of things, one thing that the budget committee found was that during the administrator's proposal, there was a $700,000 levy miscalculation. So during our entire presentation, we were told that the administration was proposing a 4% levy maximum, when in reality it was closer to 2.5%. We also discussed about a 50% water rate increase for the customers of North Smithfield Water Department.
Sorry, Michael, can you go into that a little bit about the
Sure.
levy formula?
Yeah, so in the original, the administration proposal, I'm sure they can, Tony could speak to it as well. We were told during the entire meeting that we've maxed everything out. We have to get 4%. There's no way about it. It's not enough. We need more money. And then, just doing some basic analysis during the meeting, we found that there was a large miscalculation that actually brought the levy amount down to 2.5%, I believe, about that. So just that my point in bringing that up tonight is just to clarify that we're independent, working with the administration. A second set of eyes is not a bad idea. So I kind of disagree that, the only solution is for the town and the budget committee to work hand in hand and come up with one proposal, because that was just a second set of eyes situation. But other things I'm about to talk to, I think, provides another point of view too. So,
Thank you.
is that good? Okay, great. So the second point was with the water rates for North Smithfield Water Department. The administration's proposal was proposing a 50% increase, also the water department too, to the ratepayers. I feel that's a major hardship. I'm not a customer myself, but I would be financially burdened by water rates going up that much. I felt that we didn't really see any other financing mechanisms being investigated, such as loan from the town or other means. And I think the budget committee being able to speak up and raise that point might help some people facing very high water bills this year. And then lastly, you guys kind of discussed it at the last meeting, was the fire hydrant rentals from Woonsocket. What wasn't mentioned, I don't think, was that the rate also went up, that you guys just approved like 30% from the previous year. And I believe the fire chief, who's here tonight, had stated to us publicly that many of the fire hydrants are non-functional or poorly maintained. So I think there's a real question from at least me, I don't know about the other budget committee members, but why would we be paying rental fees for hydrants in our town that don't even work when there's a fire. So, you know, just some of those things I think the budget committee was able to bring up. At least, you know, we obviously don't make legislation, but I think is valid points to ask why we would be paying it as a town. Then my final point for tonight is regarding the non-union salary increases. So that was probably one of the most debated issues that we had at the budget committee from my point of view. We repeatedly heard that there were large gaps between current salaries and market rates. We were not provided any quantitative data to support that claim. I personally asked for, you know, comparative data, performance metrics, other benchmarks, none received. In mid-May, we learned from just reading the Valley Breeze that the town of Lincoln had recently completed a comprehensive salary analysis, very similar to what we've been asking for. You know, the administration, I believe, reached out to Lincoln, confirmed the existence of it, what it cost. You know, when we asked to see a copy of it, it was recommended that the members file an APRA request individually. So, you know, from a collaboration point of view, I didn't feel that that's necessary, very collaborative. Without actual data, you know, personally, I couldn't support that large non-standardized raises for selected individuals. Instead, what the committee recommended was a flat 2.5% increase that you'll see, along with a $20,000 reserve fund. So the idea behind that was either that the town could use those funds for that salary analysis, or if internally we could find metrics that supported the claims, then the administration could propose to the councils later on during the year to increase those salaries accordingly. So I just wanted to clarify that we do understand that there, you know, if salaries are very low, that's a major concern, and we were trying to give, I was trying to push for like getting some quantitative data just to back it up, you know. And just to close, it was a pleasure to work on the committee this year. And I want to thank the administration and department heads. You guys worked a lot with us throughout the process. My goal isn't to criticize, but to clarify how the committee collaborated with the administration and how it's also important to maintain that independent role. So I believe both perspectives are important, and together we can help strengthen the town. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
And thank you to everyone in the budget committee. I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
thank you. Anyone else have any comments regarding the budget?
Douglas Oja, 1984 Providence Pike, Chair of the Budget. I just want to echo everything Mike just said. I think I spoke a lot at the last meeting, so I don't know if I need to say any more. But if there is any questions between now or as you guys are ongoing during your deliberations, I know anyone on the committee would be happy to help answer any questions, provide any insight as to how we got to certain conclusions or decisions. You know, one thing I was just thinking of is I know licensing costs has been a concern over the years. You know, you get 18%, you get a few thousand here, a few thousand there. You know, those things can all of a sudden add up to a lot of monies over time. So one thing that the council and the administration should probably think about is maybe can we partner with surrounding communities and towns and maybe go in on like a shared subscription service, especially if we have overlap and duplication. You can usually separate those things into different like domains or sections, and so that might be a way to save money. Most don't get in the same service, but I just really wanted again to thank the budget committee. Really, you know, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. I think it's easy to gloss over, you know, the numbers on the page. I've been on, this is my 10th budget. This was a very deliberative budget committee, very thoughtful, a lot of good collaboration. Do I think we can always improve? Yes, I think we'll get there. But this was turning a page to being more proactive, hopefully, and hopefully we can continue that. So again, thank you to the committee, thank you to everyone for listening, and I'm around if you have questions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions or comments on the budget? I mean, you can ask questions.
I do have a few clarifying questions. The first, essentially, subsection, tax revenue. I would really appreciate it if moving forward, we could have a breakdown to understand real estate tax, commercial, and then even tangible, just so we could better see the delineation between all of those tax revenues. Is that a possibility in the future?
So that goes with the TA's tax cert. It doesn't get generated for the budget committee. That's just not what the process, that's not what the ordinance says. But whenever the TA creates their budget,
Okay.
With that, they create tax rates. And to create the tax rates, you have the tax cert. The tax cert breaks down, the residential, commercial, tangible, frozen,
Mhm.
FFOS, all of that. So that's where you want to, it should have been, I can always send it to you. can
Yeah,
always
I would just
disseminate it
appreciate
to the
that level
council.
of
Yeah.
insight, if that's appropriate.
Mm,
It
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like it is. so
It's
thank
public,
you.
yeah, it's a public document.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you.
It was published.
I'm sorry?
That was published.
It was provided to me?
It was published. It was put in the paper by law.
Mm.
I mean,
So we'll make sure.
thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Just clarification on permits and certificates for building and zoning. So I see that across the board, Department Administrator and Budget Committee are recommending, sorry, not the Budget Committee, but the departments and the administration are recommending a $25,000 decrease in revenue for permits and certificates. Is that because some of that is moving to the planning department?
Yeah, so we did further analysis, the budget committee did, deeper analysis into that specific topic, because we had waited a while to see where things were going, wanted to see where the actuals are for the fiscal year.
Mhm.
So we had thought a lot more was gonna shift, but it actually, through the analysis that we had done, not as much is shifting as we had anticipated.
Okay.
So, yeah, the original request from the department head and the administrator was more of a knee-jerk reaction to some of the changes. And then upon further analysis, it wasn't as much as we had thought.
So am I going to see different numbers with the next iteration?
So the budget committee so what I'll usually do, what's been done in the past, is we just take I take the budget committee's numbers.
Okay.
Copy it right over to the town council column, and then subject to any changes like the department heads and myself have given you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. We got a lot of papers over here, and I apologize, I don't have the account numbers, Tony, you just
You don't, yeah,
cut
just
it
tell
off
me,
on
I
one
can
of
try
them,
and
but
find
it's
it, yeah.
Just moving along over here. The North Smithfield Police Department, so I do see that we're recommending a reduction in overtime. Could you explain a little bit what the rationale is there?
Give me a second, let me just pull it up.
So, department is recommending a $20,000 decrease. The administrator is recommending a $120,000 decrease. However, they've broken out overtime holiday, so to 74, so.
Yeah, so it was the request of the administrator that we separate them. You add those two up, it's still gonna be the same overtime.
Yeah, I think that's fine, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that do we feel as though the 350,000 and the 74, so I think it's roughly what, let's say 430? I'm not really great at math.
It's
Do we feel as
425.
though that will suffice, given just some of the history here? So we see back in 2023, overtime was 465, 2024, it was 477. We don't obviously have the actual amount now because we only had through April. So do we feel confident that 430,000 will cover overtime?
So those numbers were projected at having more new positions, brand new positions.
Okay.
To the amount of personnel in the police department. As we've heard, that has since changed, so
Okay.
we might want to, during the adoption, we might want to revisit that topic. And I'm sure the chief during the adoption or whenever can discuss that a little bit further.
Okay.
Into that dynamic a little bit more than I could, but that has changed since the original, through the process of creating the budget.
Okay, that will be helpful. And then one more
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the North Smithfield Senior Center? So I see that we have town council contribution for $45,000 to the North Smithfield Senior Services. I'm all for bringing our senior program to North Smithfield. I think, Administrator, we've talked about that. I would just really appreciate seeing some data here, a business case and data. I'm also wondering, It sounds as though they're pursuing an LLC as opposed to a 501c3. Does that have to go out for RFP?
The town has previously provided appropriations to the aging well without an RFP.
Without an RFP?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, we specified it in our budget.
Sorry, you were just
That's
projecting
right.
so much, I didn't know, when your mic had
We
just come on.
specified in our budget, General North Smithfield Senior Services,
Okay.
because it's in flux. We've had multiple meetings with the local initiative. In fact, I was trying to put together a board of directors today with some business people. I've also had follow-up conversations with Aging Well. They have provided me additional data in terms of the number of seniors that were serviced under the Food 3C program. So I have that data now, but the bottom line is, as of right now, I can't tell you I can be definitive in terms of how we're going to deploy that money.
Okay.
And that's obviously going to have to be something that comes back to the town council. I would be, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Ms. Tebow, I would be uncomfortable engaging in a relationship with an LLC. I think we need a nonprofit corporation that builds the capacity to provide senior services. And the long-term goal is to see if we can grow that program so that when the multi-generational facility opens up, they in fact become the operator of that facility. Right now, there's too many questions that I have to answer, and I can't answer them.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in flux, and it will become much more solid in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. And then one more thing, and I know that you just mentioned, Town Administrator, that you'd prefer it not being an LLC.
Correct.
But in the event that it is an LLC, and this is really a question for you, Town Solicitor, can our town council contributions be used for for-profit organizations?
Well, two questions. One, the first thing is, an LLC or a corporation, any of those entities can be a 501c3
Okay.
nonprofit. So it's not a difference, it's not a question of whether it's an
One or the
LLC
other.
or a 501c3. 501c3 is a designation by the IRS that allows a nonprofit corporation to accept contributions.
Okay.
But what you're really talking about, you want a nonprofit entity, and a nonprofit entity can receive
Okay.
donations tax-free. But that's, I just wanted to put that on the record. But the answer is, yes, the town can make a grant or a donation to a for-profit entity or a nonprofit entity.
Okay.
And that, my understanding is, the administrator is seeking at least to offer a grant, some funding source for a senior service activity, and I guess we gotta flesh that out.
Yeah, we have to
I mean,
flesh
that's,
it.
I guess that's his point. We gotta flesh it out.
Okay.
But the answer is yes.
My biggest concern is that we do not have a lapse in food service.
Right.
That's my biggest concern right now. Although we could do a 501c as an LLC, I want to look at this as a more long-term strategic issue, and that is how best to position this organization to be a source of funding in the future, whether it's from this town or from other external grant sources like the state of Rhode Island or the federal government. So we have to think through that very strategically, and not to belabor it, but I just don't think we're at a point now we can answer that question.
Okay.
And that concerns me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have any other questions, comments?
Me again. I wasn't prepared to speak on this, so I'm going to speak as myself and not as the chair of the budget committee, if possible. Douglas Oja, 1984, Providence Pike. During the last meeting, when I was speaking in my capacity as the budget committee chair, I also shared similar sentiment as the administrator. A lapse in senior services would be a big flaw for this town and this community. Any service disruption would be a big flaw for this community. I think it's interesting to hear, and I'm speaking as myself, that we're helping appoint an LLC or appointing and creating it, helping appoint a board of directors. I think it would be prudent and transparent for the town council to seek an RFP and let the best person come forward. We just did it with the grant writer. It's been done many times before in the past. I just think it reeks of backroom politics to say, let's help particular people start. And I'm all for Linda running for it, if she is the best person to run it. I mean, I know she's presented here before, she's very passionate about it, but I think the other question that needs to be asked is, when is Hallowell or the senior center or the multi-generational, or whatever we're calling it these days, going to be up and running? Because if it is going to be up and running within a year, is that program really going to be hitting the ground running from year one? Or is it even better than to just say, let's expand Parks and Recreation and bring the talent in-house and bring in qualified people to work under Ray's department, like it is in other communities as well? I think there's a lot of avenues to explore here, and I think just going with the first person or the first idea is not always the best in certain situations. I think Linda can play a very key role and has played a key role in senior services and should continue to play a key role. But I think we shouldn't just be so quick to rush to commit $45,000, because there's another item on this agenda about software for Hallowell, whatever it is. I have no idea what it is. It never came before the budget. And so those incremental costs are going to add into this total cost. So it's not really $40,000. There's more cost to it. And so I think this is a situation where it should be looked at like a business, and the town should make the best decision possible, and it should seek the best qualified people, so that we are, everyone talks about North Smithfield being the best, that we really are being the best and really pushing ourselves to be. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
I think the only other thing that I would like to mention, to piggyback off of what Mike Davis mentioned earlier regarding salary increases. So I'm completely aligned with really wanting that quantitative data, like the science behind some of these increases. I think that there's a pretty significant disparity between some of these department heads that I am just not incredibly comfortable with. I think, at least for now, standardizing that increase. I know that the budget committee mentioned 2%. I do see that the union increase was, I think, roughly 3.25%. So I would feel comfortable standardizing the increase across all of the department heads, or wherever those increases are recommended across all of the departments at 3.25, allowing our new HR manager to really complete that salary comprehensive assessment. So then we have more of the quantitative data to say, you know, in the next budget, or maybe it's, you know, mid-year, right? That these roles should be at this salary, and then we can really see the science behind it. So I just hope that everybody can respect that opinion, but I am aligned with the budget committee's recommendation standardizing there.
And just to piggyback on that, Rebecca, I mean, in the past, when we've adopted the budget, I mean, I'm not sure how the town council will go this year, but we've always pretty much straight-lined all of the non-union salaries and kind of just went right through and put everyone at the same percentage. That way it's not personal, it's just the position. And then we just went straight through that way. Mm-hmm. Without having any, because there is no backup as to why this person, because we don't have merit increases, we don't have reviews. So in the past, it's always pretty much whoever makes a motion that it pretty much straight lines those positions.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there is a disparity currently between what our current department heads are making versus what the market rate is. And so I'm not saying that 3.25 is the just amount. I'm just saying that until we really have the qualitative and the quantitative data to understand here, that 3.25 is the percentage that I'm comfortable with.
Anyone else? Anyone? Should we just table the public hearing until the next meeting?
I would recommend you
Or
do that
continue
because
it.
there might be some changes, right? Somebody might want to comment?
Yeah, okay.
Motion to continue the public hearing for the budget until a date certain of July.
No, it has to be done by July.
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
All right, we have a motion to continue to June 23rd. Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on ratification of North Smithfield Public Schools final tentative agreement between North Smithfield Association of Support Staff Personnel and North Smithfield School Committee. Mr. Ogier?
So I was away last week and I thought my email went through. I don't know if it did or not. It didn't really have good cell reception, but the budget committee has not taken this item up. You guys are free to discuss it. Just know that the committee was planning to meet next Monday to hopefully get you guys something for the 24th or around the time of the budget adoption. That piece I know you guys need to fully ratify or take the vote unless the council decides to bypass the budget committee in this instance. So that's where the budget committee is right now on it.
So you said you're meeting on Monday?
Hopefully, yeah. I have a quorum, so we will be planning to meet Monday, probably before the public hearing or whatnot.
Okay. All right.
Just also, by charter, you have to have the budget
Yeah.
committee opine on this. Just want to
Right.
reiterate that.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to continue this to, should we say that you think you'll have by the, after the 23rd?
I mean, the hope would be to have it for the 24th, but if you guys feel better pushing it to July, the first meeting. But I think that we can, I mean, it's tough to get a quorum. I only have 3 people for the next meeting that I know of right now. I mean,
Okay.
we were waiting on a lot of information to come in right before the budget memo, and that's what delayed the process there as well. So that took precedent in terms of getting you guys something, because that's also a charter requirement as
Right.
well. So, with the holiday on Thursday, it's tough for us to meet this week, so that's why we were gonna do the 23rd. So I can ask the committee if they can meet at 5 and try to get you something. I know I'm gonna need Tony's help then in that instance. I know there's a lot of, to help craft and pre-craft it, and then if the committee agrees on it, we can approve it and ratify it. I haven't talked to the committee just to not violate open meetings.
So if we make a motion to continue until the 24th, so at least you can try and meet.
I would say do that, and we'll try to get you guys something for the 24th. That would be the plan.
Okay.
So on the second day of your adoption, you could adopt it.
All right. So I'm going to make a motion to continue the ratification of North Smithfield Public Schools final tentative agreement between North Smithfield Association of Support Staff Personnel and North Smithfield School Committee to June 24th. That's a motion.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you just keep me updated so we know about Tuesday? Thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on consent agenda. All items listed in this section are considered one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda. A, town council minutes of May 15th, 19th, and 28th, and June 2nd of 2025, and communications from the Animal Control Monthly Report, the North Smithfield Fire and Rescue Monthly Report, North Smithfield Municipal Court Monthly Report, and North Smithfield Police Department Monthly Report for May 2025. Would anyone like to remove any of the items?
Madam President, I would like to remove the town council minutes of May 19th, please.
Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, sorry. I had a bit of a brain blank on this one. If we could just toggle down to appointment of the Groundwater Protection Committee. So I misunderstood. Cynthia Roberts was moved into the planning board liaison position on the Groundwater Protection Committee. Okay. I thought it was the other way around. They're on the planning board, she was in a groundwater protection committee liaison, so I misspoke there. So that will just have to be updated, that Cynthia Roberts is now the planning board liaison on the groundwater protection committee, which in turn freed up a member, a community member seat on the groundwater protection, which has been filled with Sarah LeVake since.
Okay.
My apologies. I sounded very convincing though, right?
Yeah, everyone
I
was
wasn't
confused.
at that meeting, but,
Yeah,
but that could be
yeah,
good.
everyone was a little,
Thank you, sorry.
You're welcome.
Since we're on the May 19th minutes, I have a couple of corrections. Municipal Building Review Task Force. Reps from ECC Corporation, including Farrell McMillan. No, it's not Farrell McMillan, he was the gentleman from the VFW post.
oh, yeah.
And then in the last, same business, reps explained that starting in the fall might be better due to less competition. I think it's more competition.
Where are you looking?
In that Municipal Building Review Task Force. Because if we went to bid now, we're not gonna get a lot of interest in it, whereas going to bid in the fall, we're going to get more interest in it. The very last, nope, second to last sentence.
It's under old business.
In the last paragraph?
Second to last.
Okay. Okay. So we had some help from AI.
I kind of assumed that
So
after
sometimes
reading.
we don't pick up those things, but that's why I appreciate the feedback, so
Mhm.
thank you.
Any-
I have
go ahead,
one more
sorry.
in that, same May 19th.
Okay.
And Animal Control fiscal year 2023 budget. Repairs needed, including roof in metal poling replacement. What is the poling replacement? Oh, fence.
Yeah, I questioned that too, but then I realized what it was for, so.
Okay.
Good catch, though.
All right.
Anything else? Anyone like to make a motion to approve as amended?
I will make a motion to approve the May 19th Town Council minutes as amended,
And the consent agenda.
and the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.
Can we turn the air down in here? It's freezing.
What?
Can we turn the air down? It's freezing.
CJ, can you tap the air down?
Yeah, just, can you just turn the air down a little bit, CJ? It's freezing in here.
Discussion by council vote or other action on payment of bills. Anyone have any questions on the packet?
I have a couple of questions, and maybe it's just additional information should be provided. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items associated with textbooks, tuition. Couldn't you give a little bit more background on tuitions?
What kind of background what more,
Like I just,
like what classes they took? Well, there's only so much I can fit on, that's only so much that Marie can fit on here, on the description, that eFinance limits a certain amount of characters. She tries to be as descriptive as possible.
so these are like continuing education courses?
Yes, yeah.
So when I read tuition, having 2 kids in college, I'm thinking tuition. I'm not thinking continuing education for an employee of the town. So I just think it should be clear that, you know, these are continuing education classes towards, you know, improvement of their job, you know, performance, if that is in fact what it is.
Yeah, it's usually for any type of degree associated with the police department itself, the criminal justice. Sure, why not?
Can you go to the,
Sure. I actually have a copy of the statute on my desk that I think is health insurance, but that question came up last year and I believe the year before. There's a state statute on continuing education for fire and police on any courses they may take at any accredited university, gets paid 100% by the municipality in which they work for. Books, labs, tuition.
Gotcha, okay.
thank you. Any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion to approve the payment of bills?
I will make a motion to approve the payment of bills for June 16th, 2025 in the amount of $3,855,316.23.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Old business discussion by council vote or other action on status/progress report items. 1, Charter Review Committee. Mr. Christopherow.
Yes, the Charter Review Committee, I didn't get this on the last agenda, I apologize, but the Charter Review Committee was initially scheduled for the end of May. We had to, given some scheduling conflicts, we had to reschedule the Charter Review Committee till June. So the Charter Review Committee is actually meeting this Wednesday on June 18th at 7 o'clock in the second floor conference room. And the agenda is already published.
Thank you. Material Sand and Stone, Pound Hill Realty, status of experts. There's going to be no public comment at this time. Mr. Administrator?
After going round and round and chasing various potential experts, we ended up focusing on a consulting company called GZA Environmental. GZA has all of the experts in-house. They have given us a proposal, which I received today. Their proposed fee is for $10,000 to provide all the services. We are also providing the links to all, the presentations and in the meetings that were recorded. So it seems that we've got that issue now squared away when we were really chasing our tails on this thing, trying to find individuals to serve as expert testimony.
So they will be ready for the July 21st meeting?
Mark, the planner, has been out on vacation. He's returning tomorrow, so I will make sure that we confirm that they will complete the reviews and will be ready for the second meeting in July.
Okay, great. Thank you.
May I ask a question? Administrator, I think when we made back a few weeks ago, or actually a couple of months ago when we were at this middle school, when we first made the motion to go have an expert, the intention was just have the experts maybe sit down and watch the testimony of their experts and just maybe sit down for maybe, 3, 4, 5 hours and watch the testimony that was given to the council, and then come back to us and say, yeah, what they're saying is right, it makes sense, or what they're saying doesn't make any sense. It seems like $10,000 is a lot of money to...
No, it's not when you consider the amount of hours of videos that they have to go through. I was actually very surprised that the figure of $10,000 was that low.
You're satisfied with that number?
Yeah, I thought it would have been a lot higher than that.
Okay.
And I think there was also some conversation at that meeting that you referenced about them actually covering the cost of this. There was some back and forth on that because some felt that that would compromise the integrity of the firm that we selected. Since we're going to select GZA, if it's the desire of this council, we can circle back with Material and ask if they would cover the fees. They're certainly not going to question the professional credentials of GZA Environmental.
Yeah, I thought that was at what we talked about at the meeting,
Yeah.
that as long as Material Sand was just able to see their qualifications, that they would cover this service for us.
That's certainly what was discussed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll have the planner circle back with the attorney for Material tomorrow to confirm that.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't expanding the scope of what we were... Okay.
But they'll obviously be at that meeting to report out their findings on what their experts talked about, right?
If that's the preference of the council, or if the council would want just a written overview, whatever you want, we could meet that need. I would think it'd be better for them to have it at the meeting so that you could at least ask them some questions for clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Municipal Building Review Task Force. We had another committee call today, it was, what, literally 20 minutes or so, just to kind of breeze over everything. We decided that ECC will come in front of the council the first meeting of each month to give an update. If we find we need them to come the second meeting of the month rather than the first, we'll change it going forward. But we moved it to the first, that way they can start next month doing that, knowing that we had material stand on the 21st. Other than that, there's really not much of an update, right?
No, they're working on a draft RFP, RFQ for construction managers at risk. Once they have that draft, they will get it to us to review, and then once the solicitor looks at it, Mark's gonna look at it, I would assume. Once it's been vetted, it'll come before this council for approval to be put out to bid.
So maybe we can have that by the 7th, the meeting of the 7th or sooner, but we were just thinking probably the 7th, but with the holiday and stuff, so more to come on that.
Hopefully 7th, the latest.
Yeah. Discussion by council vote or other action on boards and committees code of conduct. Mr. Christopherow.
Thank you. Would it be, sorry, thank you. Would it be helpful if I would prefer reading it end to end, especially for the folks that are viewing through YouTube or in the audience that haven't had the opportunity to read. So it took me a little while to get here, and I thank the town solicitor, as well as the town administrator and our town president for partnering with me and reviewing the very many iterations of this. So I would just like to read end to end what I'm proposing as our code of conduct policy. So code of conduct policy for town elected and appointed officials. 1, purpose. The town recognizes that all individuals elected and or appointed by the town must maintain and enforce respectful discourse with their fellow elected and or appointed members, with those who work for the town, those who volunteer their time and services on behalf of the town, and members of the public by striving at every meeting, forum, or other official interaction to treat every person fairly and with respect regardless of any differences of opinion. This code of conduct provides guidance on the standards of behavior that are accepted and required from all elected and appointed officials, with the objective of enhancing the effectiveness, credibility, and accountability of all elected and appointed officials of the town. 2, applicability. This policy and all its sections shall apply to all elected and appointed officials acting on behalf of the town and covers all of their actions and communications, whether spoken or written, including but not limited to all electronic communications, including social media. Number 3, the actual code of conduct. Actual is just my input. So as such, the North Smithfield Town Council adopted the following code of conduct to encourage public confidence in the integrity of local government and its fair and effective operation. 1, all town elected and appointed officials are expected to act honestly, conscientiously, reasonably, and in good faith at all times, having regard to their responsibilities, the interests of the town, and the welfare of its residents, and in a manner to maintain public confidence in our local government. 2, the town elected and appointed officials must refrain from communicating or acting in a disrespectful, abusive, and or threatening manner towards members of the community, other elected or appointed officials, the town administrator, or town staff. 3, the town elected and appointed officials should refrain from publicly discussing town matters that are pending or are expected to be filed before their board or committee. 4, moreover, all elected and appointed officials must fully comply with the town's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy. 5, additionally, all elected and appointed officials of the town must comply as fully as possible with all applicable laws, including, without limitation, the following: the open meeting law, procurement laws, Title 36, public officers and employees, chapters 36-14- Code of Ethics. Number 4, overarching bullet. Distribution and education. The town clerk shall provide a copy of this policy, the Rhode Island Open Meeting Act, the Rhode Island Code of Ethics, the town's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, and the anti-fraud policy to all elected and appointed officials upon its issuance and upon the subsequent appointment or reappointment of any individual. Each individual shall sign a statement that they have read this policy and will comply with all requirements set forth in this policy. In the event that any member declines to sign the form, that fact shall be noted by the town clerk on the form. Number 5, generally, a violation of this code of conduct policy may be subject to censure by the board or commission. Censure is a formal statement of disapproval in the form of a resolution that is adopted by a majority vote of the members of the board or commission. The term censure does not have to appear in the resolution. To censure a board or committee member who violates this code of conduct policy means to formally express disapproval and condemnation of their actions or behaviors within the board or commission. It is a formal reprimand, usually documented in the meeting minutes and often made public. While a censure is not a removal from office or a legal consequence, it serves as a public statement that the board or commission does not condone the censured behavior. If any elected or appointed official is accused of violating the town's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, the town administrator shall refer the matter for investigation to the contact named in the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, or a disinterested outside firm or individual qualified to investigate the alleged conduct. The town administrator shall not be obliged to obtain any additional authority. This code shall be sufficient authority. The firm or individual to whom the matter is referred shall promptly investigate the matter and report back findings of fact and recommendations to the town administrator. The town administrator shall share the reported findings and recommendations with the elected officials, board, or committee. The board committee shall then take such action as is authorized by law and as it deems fit in response to the matter. That is end-to-end the draft of the code of conduct policy. So I'm open to understanding everyone's feedback.
Can I just mention that section 5
Yes.
was the actual enforcement piece? Just because that wasn't, you skipped.
I didn't mention that?
enforcement.
Okay, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Does an anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy currently exist?
It's basic, yes, it does.
You mean at the town level?
Yeah, well, it's referred to in this document half a dozen times, so if it's still being produced,
Rebecca, I'm not sure if you're referencing state law as it relates to those. I don't know if we, as a local community, have formal adopted policies in that regard.
Okay.
Although we will, when we provide the handbook that we're currently finalizing and will be submitted to the council for review.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback now. I know that we've gone through a few iterations of this, so I was not made aware at the time that the town does not currently have an anti-harassment or anti-discrimination.
I don't think it has. I might be wrong on that.
Okay, but it sounds like we're going to get there with the handbook, so
That's correct.
Whatever's reflected in the handbook, I think would be appropriate.
Madam President? I have so many notes on what is wrong with this thing that I don't even know where to begin. I think you should do the town a favor and table this and send it off to the land of forgotten agenda items, because this thing is an absolute mess. It really is. It's all here, all this because you were offended that somebody called you a name. It's just so wrong, Rebecca, to do something like this. I don't even know where to begin. I seriously don't. You got, if code of conduct, it's number 2. The town elected and appointed officials must refrain from communicating or acting in a disrespectful, abusive, or threatening manner towards members of the community. Who determines that?
Well, the board or
determines
commission,
what?
the board or commission would determine, right?
What board or commission?
The board or commission that it's reported to. If you have a member on a board or commission, and whether it's a community member, whether it's a fellow board or committee member, whether it's a town council, the town councilor who sees, hears, it's brought to the attention of, would theoretically approach the board or commission with this inappropriate, as according to the code of conduct, with this inappropriate communication or act, and the board or commission, chair, vice chair, would make the determination how they would like to proceed with that.
So a
Whether it's a
majority, 3
one-on-one,
people.
whether it's a
Okay.
one-on-one conversation, or
Well,
whether it's a public censure.
We're back to 3 people again can decide. So 3 people in the majority can decide if one person in the minority said something offensive. Don't you see where there's so much room for corruption and abuse of that?
John, we would not be the only municipality with a code of conduct.
Doesn't make it
And to be
right.
honest with you, I had whittled this down from a 5-page document that actually had a lot more restrictive language.
We should sharpen your knife and do some more whittling, Rebecca.
Is that your
because
only note?
No, I got a lot more.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so then you got, And all right, you have, you're requesting people to sign, you're requesting people to sign the document, signing away their First Amendment rights to free speech. I would not sign that. If that comes before me, I will not sign it. I'm telling you right now, and I will encourage everybody else on any board or committee to not sign that. That's insane that you're gonna ask them to sign away their First Amendment rights.
John, if we can't cultivate an administration, I don't want to say administration, a town of appointed and elected officials that demonstrate dignity and respect, collaboration, and essentially a unified effort here, then personally, if somebody doesn't want to sign a code of conduct to maintain respect, then I don't want them on a board or committee.
I've been doing this for a little while, and I gotta say, I have nothing but respect for all the volunteers that we've had, and I'm impressed with them too. So to tell them that we're gonna, now, they're volunteering their time. So right there, now we're gonna, okay, thanks for volunteering your time, here you go, sign this paper, and you're signing
I
away
would
your First
guarantee you
Amendment
that a
rights.
majority of members of elected and appointed officials would happily sign a code of conduct, John.
A lot of people would do a lot of things, sometimes the best intentions turn out the worst results. I'm telling you. All right, so let me continue.
Okay.
So you have a majority, so a majority of 3 can decide if someone in the minority said something offensive. I said that. So that is just ripe for abuse. What are the so if we're if we're having an argument, if we're having a debate on something, and so 3 people on the council or on the board can decide that what I said was offensive, and they can automatically basically shut me up because they're going to threaten to censure me.
I think I don't necessarily understand that example. We can have respectful discourse on a board or on a committee or as elected town councilors. We can have respectful discourse. I think we've seen plenty of disrespectful discourse in this very room, which has been a product of not having a code of conduct.
With disrespectful discourse in this room?
On many occasions.
All right, so and then you have, if any elected, or the final paragraph, any elected or appointed official is accused of violating the town's anti-harassment, anti-discrimination policy, the town administrator shall refer the matter for investigation to the conduct and the anti-harassment, anti-discrimination policy, which we just pointed out we have never seen, or disinterested outside firm. Who's that? So
well, I think, and I appreciate that question because, again, like I've said, we went through a few iterations of this town administrator, and it was never brought to my attention that the town's anti-harassment or anti-discrimination policy did not exist. So if this verbiage is not appropriate for our town, then I would defer to the administration because the town's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy would sit with the administration. So if this language is not appropriate, then I would completely defer to the administration to either strike it or come up with language that makes more sense.
It will be appropriate in time, but I believe that there's already anti-discrimination harassment policies at the state level that, that can be enforced as well.
Okay.
But clearly, the employee handbook will be more specific on that, but remember, that only pertains to employees of the town. It does not pertain to volunteers or board members or commission members.
So then we would need to determine whether or not the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies should apply to elected or appointed officials. I don't see why they should not. I think if we're representing the town, then as appointed or elected officials, then we should be obliged to anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies. So not only do our elected and appointed officials feel safe from harassment or discrimination, but our community also feels safe from harassment and discrimination.
I will not sign this, number one. 5 terms. Never have I gone out, written on Facebook, clip notes, or whatever you want, really nasty things to make them feel better. It's common sense. There are certain people that don't have to follow the rules when they come to meetings, that can attack people afterwards, and it's okay. I may not agree with you, but I will defend your right.
What rights if we don't have a code of conduct?
It's basic code of respect, okay? You don't have to have it in black and white.
We do, Claire.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. You're brought up with it, you live with it. It's not gonna come overnight. I don't care what you print.
How did we manage? How did we possibly get this far without your thing here? How did this possibly happen? All these years, how do we possibly function without you and your code of conduct?
John?
It's just unfortunate.
We even have to have this conversation.
Right.
It's
That's right.
unfortunate that we have to get to this point, but there are elected, appointed people that tend to go to social media and will say whatever they want about anyone, and it's just unfortunate.
I agree. So don't reappoint them.
And it's not just anyone, it's also a significant liability when you have members of boards and committees discussing current issues that are being seen by that board or committee, or potentially that might be pending or expected to be filed in front of their board or committee. It is a liability. It is a liability when we see that sort of discourse on social media or in comments on newspaper articles.
We're on the radio.
You know what's a liability when you try to censure me because I use free speech. Now you're going to have a big liability. Okay? And I don't mean just me, but I'm talking about other people as well. You can't censure people for exercising their First Amendment rights. The First Amendment was so important to our founding fathers. The free speech was so important that they made it number one in the Bill of Rights. And now because you were offended because somebody said something, you're going to violate. You're going to violate the. Yeah, you said it to me. You said it in public. You said, "I don't appreciate being called a."
I don't, and that.
And it wasn't even directed to you.
He admitted it.
All right, can we not
So,
make it personal?
anyway,
Can we
At
get
the
to
end of
this?
the day, I have seen plenty of inappropriate and disrespectful discourse in this town that has been verbalized by elected and appointed officials. What was stated about me was the straw that broke the camel's back. And John, let me remind you, okay, that this was on a social media page that you administer.
Okay,
I
can
don't
we?
No,
administer it.
I'm just saying.
I'm not an administrator on it.
Okay? So maybe the reason why you don't like this code of conduct, John, is because you may have to watch the words that you say.
Okay, can we?
Well, now you're getting
Mr.
personal, but you
Nope,
can't find any
not getting
documentation of me
personal.
saying anything.
Mr. Biragad, can we talk
Madam
about-
President, Madam Vice President, so you raised a very, very, I think, important point, and I don't want to belabor this any longer than anybody else do, but I do believe that as the administrator pointed out, the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination statutes and policies are at a state level right now, not local, but they also are employer. So what I think we need to think about, and I hate to say potentially cut another piece, is maybe, I don't think we want to try to, I think it's very difficult to say that the town is going to enforce an anti-discrimination policy that applies to an employer situation against a board member.
Right.
Or now, don't get me wrong, people might have a claim for discrimination against someone, if some individual claim or some individual harassment claim, but I think I need to look at this
Yeah.
again, from that perspective.
Okay.
For that, I'm talking about that isolated issue, about the applicability of an anti-discrimination and the enforcement and applicability of an anti-discrimination and an anti-harassment policy on a board or commission. Not that you can't say you can't harass people, you can't discriminate, but if the enforcement is only going to be a censure, that's one thing, but the idea that we're going to have an investigation that might lead to additional prosecution at a third level, I think that needs to be stricken. That will or will not happen pursuant to state law. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I think the reason why that language is still in there was because initially, with our very first few versions of this, there was language in there regarding the administration. So I don't necessarily know if that was a miss, that it was left, but I think, David, and I'm not opposed to removing it altogether if it's not appropriate for us to include that, but I will obviously defer to whatever, to the findings of your research.
If I could also just chime in a little bit on this, Councilwoman. The reason why the draft employee handbook includes harassment and anti-discrimination clauses is because we are an employer.
Mhm.
And therefore, failure to address those issues puts the town at real liability.
Mhm.
That's why we really addressed it at that level.
Okay.
Or as you'll see, why we addressed it.
Yeah, I'm open to your findings.
I think I need to look at that again. And I think the concepts of harassing or discrimination might be subject to one of the subjects of a censure, but the idea that it's going to be referred to for
Mhm.
some sort of action beyond that,
Mhm.
I don't think the policy should take care of that. You know what I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
either it is or it isn't. If it's an employee situation, it will. If it's not, it won't.
And theoretically, right, if there are anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies at the state level, in theory, it would apply to elected and appointed officials.
It does, but that all applies to employer-employee situations. That's where the law is embedded.
Okay.
As the administrator pointed out accurately.
Okay.
I have a question for the solicitor. David, could you look up, when you have an opportunity, Laura Libby versus Ryan Fecto, Speaker of the House of Maine. A woman who was a state senator said something that the majority found offensive, and they censured her. That went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, can't do that, she can say whatever she wants. Thank you.
So I guess we'll continue this until David circles back with his findings.
Okay, thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on North Smithfield Police Department request for the purchase of one Ford Utility Explorer from Colonial Municipal Group. Mr. Donovan, but Chief Lafferty, you're going to have this one?
I am, Mrs. President. The North Smithfield Police Department is requesting the approval of the purchase of one Ford Explorer from Colonial Municipal Group, which they are on the master price agreement in the state. About 6 weeks ago, there were JAG burn grants available for law enforcement agencies throughout Rhode Island. So we're going to secure $51,995 of that grant that was given to the North Smithfield Police and invested in the cruiser, where the balance after the purchase would be $22,936.30, which would be paid, request to be paid out of the detail cruiser account, which is a fee that the town charges per hour for every cruiser that's used on a third-party detail. So the purchase of the cruiser is $45,391. To upfit that cruiser is $29,540.30, which brings a total of $74,931.30. With the grant applied, we'd only have to take out of the cruiser account $22,936.30.
Chief, can you say that number one more time?
Okay, so the total cost of the cruiser with the cost of the cruiser and outfitting it with the lights, the laptop, and all the partitions inside would be $74,931.30. We would apply a JAG grant of $51,995.00. The balance owed by the town would be $22,936.30, which we would take out of the cruiser detail account, which is not off the budget or last year's budget or capital. It's just a fund that's gained increases with the amount of details being done. And the reason why we're purchasing this a little prior to the completion of the budget, but this is one of the cruises that I had asked for in capital that to offset the capital expense of the police department.
To what?
Offset the capital expense of the police department.
Is this a replacement or an addition?
It's a replacement to what I requested 3 cruises in my budget I believe from the Budget Committee and the Town Administrator, put in for 2. So this is one of, however you decide, 2 or 3 cruises, this would be one of them.
Didn't, like a month ago or 6 weeks ago, didn't we approve another cruiser because one was damaged? Maybe it was a replacement.
That was a replacement.
So where did that money come from? I don't remember.
Probably some from insurance and probably the cruiser account, I believe.
So is that not part of the 3 you requested? That's because we had
No,
one-
usually the ones requested are from blown motors, mileage, calculated that they need to be replaced. And those higher mileage cars go to the detail
Town administrators.
group. No, well, they're used on details, so we don't run the cars that are just bought on details. It saves a little bit of maintenance on them.
Chief, and you may not have this information, but how many vehicles does the police department currently have?
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 20,
20. They're all in service?
yes.
How many police officers do we have?
We have 27 sworn officers. 2 are absent due to sick arbitration litigation, 3 left in the last 6 months, and 1 will be leaving in probably the fall.
So how many do we have right now?
20, 21?
And are all 20 of these vehicles currently being used as vehicles for the police
No,
officers?
some are patrol, some are administration, some are detective.
Details?
The detail cars, those are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 detail cars. Which, they don't have radios, they are very, very old. But
How many of those you said?
1, 2, I believe 3,
Of the 20 vehicles?
yes.
Yeah, I thought it was in addition to the 20. So you really have either 23 or 24 vehicles.
No,
total.
the 3 vehicles I request are to replace older vehicles. This vehicle I'm requesting now is going to replace a vehicle.
I think she's asking, if you don't get this, what do you currently have for vehicles? It sounded like either 23 or 24.
We have 20 patrol vehicles.
Plus 3 or 4 detail, or including 3 or 4 detail.
We have 11 patrol cruisers. We have 9 administrative cars, which are captain, lieutenant, SROs, and detectives. We have, and the 3 detail cars, which aren't road-ready, they don't have radios, they're just used for their lights.
And then, Chief, when you replace a vehicle,
Mhm.
what do you do with the vehicle that was replaced?
We bump it down to the detail group, which that only has 3, and those that are in the detail group go to be auctioned off.
Okay.
So do you think you could get us a list of the cars and the mileage and stuff?
I have a list here, I can get you mileage if you want, but it
Okay.
changes daily, so.
Yeah, obviously, but.
Yeah, I have
we
it
can
every year.
have
I
some
think
sort of
you guys
idea.
always ask for it every year, and I give it to you.
Yeah, okay. So this would bring it up to 12 patrol cars then, is that what you're saying? Or would this,
No, they're being replaced.
No, it's being replaced, so it's gonna bump down. I forget which one that they have for mileage. I don't have that list on me, that's in my office. But it's basically to replace the fleet that's there now.
So is-
But when I say replace, you have active patrol cars that are patrol cruiser ready. Then those cars that have a lot of mileage are put into the detail, which they're stripped of the radio and they're just used for details.
So is 23 the optimal quantity of vehicles for the police department?
Well, that would be one almost one cruiser for each
That's
officer.
that's what I'm asking, because we have, it seems like we're always approving cars. I'm just wondering.
Because the mileage are always, you're replacing, so it's, as the cars get older and they get more or less a term of put to pasture, you have to replace them at one time. We have a couple of blown motors on some of these that were moved down to the detail group, and they just blew the motor and it went for parts, but then they auctioned those off in the last auction that they had.
So I know you don't have the list with you, but when you say high mileage, what are you considering high mileage?
Well, generally, anything that gets close to between 80 and 110,000 miles. But the problem is when I request it at the budget hearings and then you approve the budget, then we put it out to bid, then the car goes and gets outfitted, then it gets put on the lot. The car that it was meant to replace, that mileage is constantly going up. So we kind of guesstimate it between 80 and 120,000 miles. But sometimes the cars are put out because maybe an accident occurs. It's no clear science to it. Some cruisers get a lot of mileage put on them because they're just switching from shift to shift to shift because that's the only car that's available for that officer on that shift, because maybe the brakes are getting done on the car, or there's something that takes a week or two for repair, so something has to take that. Or there's an accident on a car, so that other cruiser takes its place, so.
It's hard mileage too on those guys. I mean, a lot of hours of idling.
Yeah.
You know, revving it up, I mean, going up to speeds from 0 to 85, 90. And
That's why a cruiser-ready car that we put in patrol is different than a car it's road safe, and it's like your car that you drive around, but it's between the suspension and everything that goes in the motor for the cars is, it gets beat up.
So have you, now is this one already in, or how long would this one take to,
Once you approve it,
so it's available now?
yeah.
Oh, so it doesn't take all that time then?
Well, they have to deliver it, so. I don't know if it's physically on the lot. I know we're gonna order it once. I'm
So
assuming it
what's
is.
What's the lead time then? That's what I'm
When will
asking.
an officer be able to drive? I
Right,
think
I
it's-
mean, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think about, I would
Monday.
say 3 to 4 months. Well, the problem is, and I know you're smirking, but
No, I'm asking
these,
a
you know how
question and
many
I can't get
cruisers
an
get
answer.
purchased in the state of Rhode Island, and this one company of few are just working on Cranston, Portsmouth, Charlestown, state police. You go up to, there's a company up in Massachusetts, as far as the eye can see, there's 50 Mass State Trooper cars that need to be outfitted, so it takes a long time for me. It's frustrating for us as well, but it takes a while for these cars to get worked on. This company is local and they're close, and their turnaround time's pretty good. But it's tough to tell you, it's gonna be this many weeks or 2 months, because it depends on what they're working on and how we get the car back.
And then Chief, just a clarifying question. So I think you mentioned that for this budget, you were requesting 2 to 3 new.
I requested 3.
3
And the
vehicles.
budget committee and the town administrator put in for 2, which, that, it is what it is, so this grant came in.
Yeah.
And if you prove the grant, where you have to follow the grant, it's easier to put all the money into one item because you have to prove that through the grant cycle. And this is the big expense for the town, for the police department, is the cruisers,
Yeah.
the cost of the cruisers. So
That absolutely makes sense.
we just felt it prudent, it's the biggest chunk of our budget, and we would use it for that.
Yeah, but so you requested 3. Now, is that based on, like, historically, you usually need 3
It's just
new
based
vehicles
on,
a year?
yeah, I sat down with the planning board, for the last 10 years, and if you do the math, it's like 2.5 cruises per year.
Okay.
Depending on wear and tear mileage.
Mhm.
But then again, if you have cars that get in accidents, or cars that blow motors that aren't under warranty, and things like that.
Right.
It's just, and every time those little things happen, mileage adds up on the other cruises that are in the fleet,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
You know how you'd save a fortune in car repairs, right?
What?
Copper Man.
What'd you say?
Copper Man. Everybody would take much better care of their car.
Oh, yeah, that's a philosophy. It's a state trooper kind of policy. If you take it home, you take care of it, And you're the only one putting in the mileage on it.
And you're responsible for it.
Yeah. Well, they're all responsible. It's when you have it in 3 shifts a day, 3 officers, 4 officers, 5 officers on the shift every day, 3 shifts a day. It adds up.
So would you mind sending us a list of the cars with the mileages after this?
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone have any other questions? Tony, do you have an amount that's in this account?
I always have an amount. Might not have it readily available right now, but yeah, we're always reviewing the cruiser fund whenever there's a big purchase going through.
Could you give us an update at some point? Anyone have any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the purchase of one Ford Utility Explorer from Colonial Municipal Group in the amount of $74,931.33, of which $51,995 will be a federal JAG grant.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you throw a penny in the back seat when you get it. Good luck.
Or $1 under the sun.
Or 50.
Is that a superstition?
I guess so. Discussion by council vote or other action on planning department purchase of My Senior Center software system. Ms. Monahan or Ms. Tebow?
No, I'm not Mrs. Monahan, but I'll give my best shot at this. If you recall, the town had received a grant from the state of Rhode Island under the Office of Healthy Aging. That grant was to be used for transit services for seniors. Suffice it to say that that program was not a positive experience for the vendor, and the funds were significantly under-expended. We have until June 30th to commit to the remainder of the funds, or they go back to the state, or we don't get them. So currently, as historical, we've been offering through Ms. Tebow senior services at Scouters Hall. So the thought was that we would use some of the funds to purchase a software program, and it's called, My Senior Center, which effectively is a program that allows the operator of Scouters Hall to document and to check in people to actually monitor what program the services they are participating in. The cost of that system is $8,500. That's a software and hardware. It's a complete turnkey system, and an annual licensing fee of $2,100. Ms. Monahan has cleared that with the funding source, that they feel that is an eligible expenditure of funds, and therefore we are requesting approval to effectively reprogram those monies to purchase that software and hardware. The procurement documentation is provided in the package, and going forward, and I might add that this is a system that's used by a lot of senior services, senior programs in the region as well as nationwide. If it's I'm not going to say if, when we transition over to the multi-generational facility, this software goes with it. So it'll be used for its operations there. So what I'm asking for is approval from the town to allow us to reappropriate grant funds that were awarded to the town for the purchase of the software and hardware for My Senior program.
Town administrator, does this program require a degree of training?
They will do onboarding for us, but it's not a very sophisticated system. It's card access. They're basically recording people coming in. Effectively, it reduces the staff time to actually maintain that data that you've been asking for as it relates to aging well. Important data as we use it to plan services going forward.
Okay, and then in addition to the $8,500 for the actual technology, will there be any associated cost in installing this technology in Scouters?
No, just 20. No, in fact, what we're also doing right now is we are installing Wi-Fi at Scouters Hall. So it allows us to work off of that. And keep in mind, there's also a $2,100 annual licensing fee for the software. Most important thing is that we've been offering senior programs at Scouters Hall for a long time. This is going to help support that, and it provides value because then we can use it at the multi-generational facility in the future.
Yeah.
Can we have the budget committee speak on this?
Council can allow a person to speak, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Mike Davis. The only thing, I have this paper that Ms. Tebow handed us on April 17th. Until just tonight, I thought the subscriptions that she mentioned would be part of the $45,000 town allotment, but she listed, or on this paper it's listed at my senior center program yearly subscription was going to be only $1,500, and then the computer / key tag scanner equipment was going to be $1,000. So the numbers seem off.
The real numbers are $8,500 and $2,100. I have the proposal right from the company.
Yeah, so my point isn't that your numbers are wrong, it's just that as we're talking about switching from aging well to this, that we're gonna be able to do it at the same cost. Now we're talking about the same cost plus this hardware, software, probably subscription. We're quickly getting past the $45,000, so just wanted to make that point.
We don't have a budget for the $45,000 other than a requested appropriation. That has to be developed in response to the questions that have been raised by Councilwoman DeCristofaro. That is yet to be defined. So $45,000, we don't even know at this point in time what that's going to be used for. We don't know how much of that is going to have to go to possibly aging well as part of the 3C nutrition program. We just don't know yet.
Okay,
this is a grant money that we have from the state that if we don't spend, we lose.
Yeah. So my point is that the budget committee did receive a budget with expense. I only have one copy, so I can hand it to you guys. But it clearly said Town of North Smithfield contributes $45,000. Personnel is $20,020 for Linda T, 11 hours a week at $35 an hour. Consultants, $24,450 for 10 classes per week at $50 per class, $26,000 minus holidays at $1,550. So we did get hard numbers, right? This is what we thought the $45,000 was used for. Now I see that separate cost wasn't included in that, but total $47,500, not, you know, this 8,000 number. I believe that those numbers, I'm not disagreeing that they've been updated. I'm just saying that from a budget committee, from a budget perspective, we're now talking about, you know, it's going to be more. Did you want to take that?
But this would, so annually, it would just, so right now, the 8,500 is under this grant plus the 2,100 annual. So every year, it's just going to be
$2,100.
Right, okay.
That's correct.
So I think, is it a subscription model though?
It's hardware, software, and then we have an annual subscription to the software.
Okay, so I think it's unrealistic to think it's always going to be $2,100.
Right.
I work heavily with a lot of licensing and
Right.
subscriptions, hardware, both on location and in the cloud. So I would expect that there's probably some increases. But to the point Mike just made, we did receive a budget for proposed senior services. We even got as detailed as is, are we going to collect revenue eventually, and how much are we going to charge to help offset some of the future expenses? So to say that budget isn't proposed for $45,000 is a gross misunderstatement to the budget committee. It feels like the budget committee is being treated as we just kind of came up with this stuff in a vacuum. when clearly we had multiple conversations. We asked every week, what's the status of the senior center? Are there going to be any incurrent costs? To the point where we just said, leave it up to the town to determine how it funds it. There clearly seemed to be no clear path forward, but this is very clear cut in terms of you're getting down into personnel hours, into like pretty much a salary and a wage and all that stuff that comes with it for $45,000. And so I think the town needs to really have a hard conversation of what is it going to spend 45? It's not a small amount of money that you're about to appropriate for a program that it sounds like no one knows what's going to happen with it on July 1st. And I think to do that is a huge mistake. I think the town needs to commit back to aging well at this point if it can't pick a path, and figure out the time to say, let's look at it in Q2 or Q3, and let's prorate the amount of money we were going to give to this organization and draw down on that point in time so there isn't a disruption. Everyone says we don't want a disruption, but yet all I'm hearing is we have no path forward right now. It's still in development. So I just wanted to support Mike in that we did have a budget. It did not include this cost. I don't know when this was being discussed. We asked all the time for Tony, can we get updates? Nothing about this. So it would be good to know to bake in for future budget, but there was a budget discussed.
Not to disagree, but I never implied that they didn't have hard numbers. I'm saying I don't have hard numbers. I have not seen any budget that's been presented to me. I've only had ongoing conversations with Ms. Tebow regarding the program and emphasizing that we need to put together a very definitive program of work. If the budget appropriation is 40 or 45, we have to figure out how that's ultimately going to be allocated. That's why I spend time on the phone with Aging Well and trying to get the data so that we can figure out, are we going to have to quickly pivot, which they've asked me to do, to provide the 3C nutrition funding to them. And that's what the administrator is currently doing per my job. The $8,500 plus $2,100 is currently a grant. It is going forward in the future, it's a separate issue, but right now it's a grant. If we don't commit to that by June 30th, then we lose it. Then it no longer becomes a grant, it becomes an expense of the town.
Okay. May I ask 2 clarifying questions, Madam President? Did this have to go out to bid?
No, it's on the MPA.
Okay. And then secondly, in the event that it is determined for whatever reason that this software at this time is not the most appropriate move, could that grant be used to, let's say, make any updates to Scouters as the senior center at the moment?
It is, I forgot what the date is today. Time is running out quickly, and there's been a lot of conversation, which I haven't been part of, but it's been conversations through Bobby and Linda and the grant source to really vet this thing through, and which they were comfortable with. Whether they would be willing to be comfortable with an improvement of real property, I can't say, other than I can tell you right now, $10,000 isn't going to get you much of real property improvement.
So it seems like there's 2 kind of paths here, 2 issues here. One is, okay, $8,500, our $2,100 maintenance doesn't kick into year 2. So almost seems like spend the $8,500 with the grant money, so it's not impacting any budget. Gets us to next June. Maybe something happens with, you know, this alternative senior service, but I personally don't see, I don't know enough about it, but here we are, June 16th. If we have to have something in place by July 1st for seniors, I don't see it happening.
I'm pretty comfortable. What I just wanted to bifurcate the 2 issues here. One is the nutrition program, which to me is the one I'm most concerned about. I think in my conversation with Aging Well, we can pivot really quick on that one. So I don't think we're going to lose anything.
And stay with them, or?
Stay with them as to provide the nutrition program. Whether that's for the full year or part, we don't know. We're going to have to work that out. My gut feel is we're probably going to have to work with them for the full year, which is what they would really want. As it relates to the programming, there was already programming through Aging Well that was already being handled at Scouters Hall. Linda's already putting together those programs. So we are working, I should say, she is working on that. I don't understand it, quite frankly. So there's really 2 separate issues. The one I'm most concerned about right now is just the loss of the nutrition program, the gap on that.
So then, I guess this $8,500, if it's spent and that hardware and software goes into Scouters, it's collecting information that is already occurring, just not being collected?
That's correct. What I asked from Aging Well was to provide me data as it relates to the number of seniors that participate in our nutrition program, both at the Woonsocket Senior Center as well as the Meadows. I got aggregate data. I went back and said, could you give me data for both the Meadows and Senior Center and Woonsocket separate? And I also asked for, can you give me any information regarding participation by programs of North Smithfield seniors? They have not given me that at this point in time.
Which kind of can't blame them.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how they operate. Clearly, they've been keeping the information regarding the nutrition program, which I could probably understand because it's probably a condition on their funding sources. But I can't attest to that. And we also asked for a copy of Aging Well's audit, and they haven't provided that to me. In the past, they haven't provided us audits, and we're really circling back to a lot of the programs that we fund and asking for organizational audits so we can be more clear in terms of their revenue sources and their expenses, how they're using our money.
One more question.
Yep.
So say this Linda Tebow thing pans out one way or another. Why doesn't that need to go out to bid if that entity, LLC, 501, C3, isn't on an MPA? Why wouldn't that have to go out to bid?
You can actually specify that. I'm just explaining to you, in the past, Aging Well did not go out to bid. All right? You have the ability to provide grant funds to different organizations. If you feel it's in the best interest of the town to go out to RFP, you can do that. But if we're going to do that, we have to be extremely clear in terms of what is the scope, what is what we're asking for in terms of services and programs. We don't have that data yet. Those programs really have to be defined, which is why I'm saying the $40,000 or $45,000 that's in the budget is not to be spent the minute the budget's passed. It's to be spent as evidence and information is provided to the council that says this is how it's going to be spent. We're not in a position to do that, other than the town needs to fund, one way or the other, a senior program. I'm not here to say that I think it's the best interest today to basically provide all those funds to Aging Well. I'm not convinced on that, but they may change my mind. That's why we're asking for information right now.
So it seems like there's like a 2-year kind of time frame.
No.
That is unknowns and opportunity to, put plans in place to, at the end of 2 years, when we have this multi-generational facility, to have somebody who's in there operating it. So
We have a pretty clear experience rating based on Linda's activities on programs. So we know what programs are being offered. We know, anecdotally what the level of uses were. We don't have the hard data in terms of participation. So, the other thing that we've been talking about with our planner has a very good relationship with someone who runs a very robust senior program in another part of the state, a municipal senior program. And we're reaching out to that person to actually sit down and work with us in vetting out what a senior program would look like in North Smithfield, not just in year 1, 2, but actually once it's fully ramped up in Hollowell. And I think that's probably a 2-year program, because I don't think realistically we can think we're going to open up doors at Hollowell for 2 years.
Just the last thing I just wanted to say, it's off topic from the subscription, but in this proposed budget from Linda, there was $0 in here and talked about for meal services. So that's something that this money that she's proposing to spend every year is strictly on the Zumba classes, the yoga classes, all the programs that you've participated in, Councilman Beauregard. So it sounds like, is that at risk for July 1st? Because that's something we ask pretty much every week.
Are
the Zumba classes going on?
It was Linda's anticipation. I believe that they were going to offer the meal services. My position is I don't think that that's going to be realistic.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
we're
gonna
going to
be a
have
big-
to scale and pivot on the mill services
Yeah.
out of risk of managing any void in services and deal more on the activity side that Linda has outlined and put together a budget just for
Right.
that.
So I think some of the presentation that went to the budget committee was incomplete. We didn't even talk about meals, and we kind of hammered at home, are you sure? You know, I felt, for me, I was told that Aging Well could not continue anything. There wasn't even a consideration. That's why we kind of just had to go along with this. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have.
Well, I obviously wasn't there for Linda's presentation.
Yeah.
I have had the meetings, conversations with Aging Well.
But
so-
Tony was.
Yeah,
He
well, I
at the-
wasn't, so. That's why I said we needed to have conversations with the
So
administrator.
it's probably safe to say in the budget, we should probably label it Aging Well for now until we can get.
I think you
everything.
ought to label it North Smithfield Senior Services as I requested. That gives us the flexibility to bifurcate it.
Okay.
To part to Aging Well, if that's the direction we go, and the other part to go to programs locally.
So it gives us a
Yeah,
flexibility. Okay.
as opposed to specifically hard line a organization in there.
And
Gives
then-
you, it gives you the council the flexibility to make that ultimate decision.
And
Because
then
you'll make
either
that decision.
way, there were classes at Scouters, so whichever way we go, then getting this software would allow us to collect the data that we need
Yeah.
to go forward, correct?
And again, the way I look at it is, and that's not to dismiss what you said, Rebecca, because there's always ways if we have enough lead time, but the way I look at it is, we're fully committed to the multi-generation facility, and this is an investment that will pay, that we can use when we do open up those doors too.
Think there's any synergies between talking with the company, I don't even know who it is, who does meal service to the schools to see like if they offer something for seniors?
We could, to me, because of timing, if there's somebody that's already doing that, it's probably the path of least resistance right now, but we could always explore that going down the road. I don't think anything that you do now doesn't necessarily have to be hard-lined in for the future. We should be exploring all options.
Yeah, definitely should be, especially if, you know, like I said, we've got this potential 2-year time
Yeah.
frame before, you know, we're looking to be using our multi-generational, you know, now's the time, it almost seems like you gotta stick with Aging Well. I don't see you getting a food program in place in 2 weeks. And if you are, you
Yeah.
know,
I
very
don't-
nervous about
I don't
that,
disagree with that.
you know, so, but that doesn't mean that 3 months from now, 4 months from now, we can't be having conversations with other providers saying, hey, you know what? How does this pan out? What does this look like? What does this cost? Is there, you know, savings? How do we?
What I wanted to emphasize, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Linda Tebow, because this is a world that she's worked in her whole life. But I think that there is a need to have a very in-depth, robust conversation about the program going not just for the next 12 months, but 24 months, 36 months, and on. And I think in order to do that, Linda is really good on the service side in working with the seniors. She really hasn't dealt with the operational side, and she will be very clear in admitting that. And we need to make sure that we bring in others that can sit down and be part of building a program with their experience. So that's something that we're already working on to make happen.
Can I just say point of order now? We've been really went off track here. This topic is the My Senior software for $8,500, $2,100 a year. And we're all over the map.
No, we're not. We're talking about the budget and about this line item. I mean,
We've been beating this to death for what, 15, 20 minutes now? One more.
I think there is, and I understand your frustration. I get frustrated too. I think there's a lot of angst right now, and there's a lot of questions. And I think that's why there's a lot of things surfacing right now that have to be answered, and you quite fairly should be asking those questions. That's the role of the administrator, working with the town council, and all I'm asking from a very simple thing is, can we redeploy grant money to buy the software and hardware? It's that simple.
Do we feel as though this software, though, could be duplicative once we do move to Hallowell? Like, I don't know if we can say at this point that we necessarily know what sort of software Hallowell will use in order to.
This kind of
coordinate.
software is being used at 1,500 other senior centers.
Senior centers.
Yes.
Right, but senior centers.
That's
This
correct.
is going to be a multi-generational center. So could anybody use this system to badge in? Or is it
I would
just
assume
for
that
seniors?
anybody could badge in, but I think the thing that I caution a little bit on, because we've always talked about it as a multi-generational facility, I emphasize that we need to first think about it as a senior center and then transitioning to multi-generational, because it's shooting ourselves in the foot, because it's closing funding doors right now.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. And it's very simple, because our seniors are automatically eligible under LMI. Our youth are not, because of the wealth of this town. And that's why it's really causing a lot of problems for us. So we're really focusing heavily on seniors. Whether this software program could be transitioned, offer other programs for non-seniors, can't answer that question. All I can tell you is it's a senior service operation program that's used very ubiquitously throughout the country.
Okay, thank you.
To me, it's a no-brainer. If it's grant money being spent, the $8,500, you know. If it goes away in a year because things totally change, well then, you know, we
We
didn't.
don't do the maintenance.
Yeah, we just don't do the maintenance. We don't budget for it, or something else comes along, you know.
It was a no-brainer 20 minutes ago.
I think the only other thing that.
I guess it was, but it's all, like, I don't know, the whole thing is so blurry right now.
Ambiguous, yeah.
That I wanted to have a little better understanding of kind of where, you know, we're going, or where we think we're going.
Not to get away from the line item, to John's point earlier, but Town Administrator, you did just mention that we would essentially be hiring someone or some persons to help us to delineate the operations for this program. So that
No,
wouldn't,
I'm not saying we're going to hire anybody.
We
We're going to
wouldn't
get
hire.
volunteers.
volunteers.
Yeah, we
okay.
have some experts in other parts of the state who have indicated they'd be willing to sit down with
Okay.
us and help us.
Okay, thank you, because I was thinking, if we're going to hire, then we obviously have more than the
We
$45,000.
don't have any money to hire.
Noted.
All right, anyone like to make a motion regarding this?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the planning department's purchase of My Senior Center software system for a one-time fee of $8,500 for the hardware and software, and for an annual fee of $2,100 a year.
That's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on amendment to Code of Ordinance, Chapter 301, Taxation, Article 3, Tax Classification System, Section 301-18, Tax Classification Duties of Assessor. Ms. St. George.
Hi. So last year, the state passed a law giving an exemption to all businesses of $50,000 in exemptions. In the same law, it stated that we could reduce the tangible tax rate, but we can't increase it. So it conflicts with our town ordinance. I believe I'm covered by state law because it's state law. But we wanted to match our ordinance with state law, so we would just be changing the last sentence. So basically, prior, your real estate tax rate your commercial tax rate couldn't be more than 1.5% of your real estate. And your tangible tax couldn't be more than 2.25% of your commercial rate. Now, because they passed that law, it basically throws out the last section in our ordinance of where Class 3 property rates shall not be more than 25% of the maximum allowed class of Class 2 property rates. Sorry, butchered that. So it would just state Class 3 property rates shall be set by the assessor as required by state law. just removing the 2.25%.
So there's no more set rate, it's just how you set it. Is that what you're saying?
For the tangible,
Yeah.
for commercial, that would still come into play.
Okay. Okay. Anyone have any other questions for the assessor?
In the future, on something like this, it would be extremely helpful to have what the original text is and what the replacement text
Yeah,
is.
just to
as
redline it.
Opposed to the replacement text.
So if we
I
can
don't know
just
who-
redline.
That's my work.
So the request is to you, David.
Then I'll get it
Thank you.
done.
Do you want the ordinance?
No, I think I got what it said.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 301, Taxation, Article 2, Tax Classification System, Section 301-18.
Mr. Councilman, this is only a first reading.
Oh.
Yeah.
So nothing can happen tonight. This needs to be posted for second reading with a public hearing. So this is just a first
So are
reading.
we just making a motion to set the date?
Right.
Okay.
Schedule a date for public
Motion to schedule a second reading. Is it a date certain?
Actually, public hearing, and just so, again, just to refresh your recollection, the way it works under your charter is you have to have a first reading, you have to have a public hearing, and then you have to have a second reading when you can act. Now, normally, when it's a minor change and there's no controversy associated, you normally schedule the public hearing and the second reading for the same day, and if it's a simple matter, then you close the public hearing and you vote on the second reading. If there's a problem, you can always continue the second reading to a date beyond that. But my suggestion and recommendation is make the public hearing and the second reading for the same day.
So
If-
when can that be advertised and?
Does this have to be done before the budget?
Yes.
So if we can get it into the Valley Breeze this Thursday, it can be advertised this Thursday and next Thursday and be done before Jen sets the rate.
So when's, what date would that be?
The 26th, which is the week, the budget will be the 23rd and the 24th. And then we have a meeting scheduled for the 26th, which will be when Jen sets the rate, so we could do this before.
So that would be okay for that date?
Yeah, so the 23rd and the 24th is the adoption. The council can adopt the budget those dates. Jen will work on the rates. There's another meeting on Thursday, that Thursday, where we will present the rates to you, maybe a couple of options, and prior to that, the council would hopefully approve the second reading.
Okay, so the date certain would be the 26th.
Correct. I just need to get the okay from the Valley Breeze. I can get it in the paper, but I don't see why not.
Okay, June 26th.
Motion to continue the amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 301, Taxation, to a
Madam
public.
Councilman, I think it's just a matter to accept first reading and schedule the public hearing and the second reading for
The 26th.
June 26th.
June 26th.
Okay. Accept first reading. Accept first reading. Schedule a public hearing and a second reading to June 26th for the amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 301, Taxation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.
I just want to also clarify too with the council, this popped up because as we were working on trying to finalize the cert and the rates, things just weren't working right, and Tony had organized a conference call with the Division of Municipal Finance in the state of Rhode Island. That's when they made us aware that they had changed that law, and that's why we're at the point that we're at right now.
Okay.
Thank you. I was curious why it seemed to be last minute.
It's very hidden. They said, they're like, we don't blame you for not seeing it.
What's that?
No one else did. They said that it's very hidden in the legislation. They said we have no one sees it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on internal transfers for the town clerk's department.
So I'm requesting that we transfer our funds from travel and dues and subscription to supplies to purchase they're not an entire desk, but they're additions that go on top of the desk for stand-up desk. So we do have some of the funds that we're using from the trust, from the Health Matters program, and we'd like to utilize that money and then the addition from these other accounts. So hoping we may start a trend of getting people to be a little bit healthier at work and stand up.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the transfer of funds from town clerk travel and dues and subscriptions to town clerk supplies in the amount of $525 from the town clerk travel line, as well as $785 from the town clerk dues and subscriptions line for the purchase of 3 stand-up desks.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Punchak?
Yes.
Ms. House?
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on approval of road use permit for Material Sand and Stone Corporation. Mr. Gibbs?
We were approached, the administration was approached by Material Sand and Stone back in January, asking for a 5-year extension to their road access permit. I indicated to Material at that time that I would not be willing to grant a 5-year road access permit, but I would be willing to grant a 1-year, which would give the town the time to go through their current land use hearings with Material, as well as for us to better assess the situation going forward, and they concurred with that. Pursuant to the municipal ordinance, I went to the police department for a traffic report, which they gave me, which is in your package. I also went to the Department of Public Works for an assessment of road condition. They went out to PAR Engineering and had PAR take a look at that. PAR basically put a figure, I think, of $130,000 of road deterioration. So basically, I put together terms and conditions of the road access permit as I am authorized to do under the ordinance, but reflective of a lot of the issues and concerns that were raised over the past 6 months that I've been here. I signed that to make sure we had that on record. However, per ordinance, the town council has to accept the bond amount. And as I said, the original bond amount was for $100,000. We increased it to $150,000 based on the PAR report. So it's on your docket to basically approve the bond of $150,000, and then and for the town council president to sign the access permit with the town administrator, which I've already signed. And I also wanted to point out, too, for clarification, because I'm sure the NRI Now and Valley Breeze will be loving this one. We did not go publicly on this early on for very clear reasons, and those clear reasons were we were tied up in public hearings as it relates to Material Sand and Stone. They are separate issues, and it would have been unfair to the applicant to be subjected to this on top of that. We wanted clarity. So I made sure that we had the bond in place, and that we would then address the issue later on, which now we're addressing before we get back into the public hearings in July.
Anyone have any questions?
So the bond itself, is it just for, like, PAR's report talked about repaving the 2 roads?
That's correct.
And that's the intent is, just to repave those 2 roads?
For road deterioration, that's correct.
What about like general maintenance?
It's just for road deterioration at some point. Again, the main thing was, if this was, which I wouldn't support, if this was a 5-year permit, it would be a more complex conversation. But being that it's only a 1 year, the PAR report seems more than sufficient to handle simple resurfacing.
Anyone have any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
So all we're approving is a $150,000 bond.
That is correct.
I will make a motion to approve the $150,000 bond amount recommended by PAR Engineering based on their inspection of Pine Hill Road and Pound Hill Road.
Do you need the motion to
Should also
reference the
authorize
road-
you to sign.
road access
That's
permit
correct.
for material sand and stone?
Is that the same motion or is that a separate motion?
No, just include it.
Counselor?
You can amend it.
Just amend the motion.
I'll amend my motion to include having the town council president sign the road use permit.
That's a motion. Is there a second? Any further discussion?
It's just that, I don't have a problem with it, but it's just that in the past, last year, they came before the council for that. So everything, this is fine doing it, this is all good?
Yeah, again, I wasn't here last
I know
year.
that.
So all I'm doing is operating of what the ordinance says.
Okay.
And given it's just a 1 year, I didn't think that was really necessary.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Recuse.
Oh, sorry. Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.
And just for clarification too, although you may have already seen it, the $150,000 bond is in place already. If you wanted to change in that for whatever reason, we would have to go back to them. But we've had the bond since March.
Okay, open forum pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Did anyone want to get up and speak? Okay. And 3 minutes, Mr. Grubb?
I will try. Richard Grubb, Violet Street. I'm only here tonight because I saw the road use permit on the agenda. It hadn't appeared on any agenda this year, and we were told to keep questions about the quarry held off until the quarry's authorities and representation had a chance to be here. So I was really shocked that it was on the agenda. I put together a little timeline. A lot of this is things you already know, but I wanted to put it all in one place. On December 12th, 2023, the plaintiff shall apply for a new road use permit and use variance before the town zoning board. While applications are pending before the town, the status quo shall be maintained to prevent economic harm to the plaintiff in the interim. On March 18th, a road use permit was approved by the council 5-0 after an executive session followed by our own town attorney presenting the road use conditions, but without allowing for public comment. Public was invited to comment after the vote was taken. On February 20th, 2025, I had reviewed the conditions because Mr. Landry mentioned the conditions during one of his presentations applying for a zoning overlay. One of those things was a road assessment by an engineering firm. On February 20th, I emailed Ray Pendergast, and he answered me that our town engineering firm did the inspection and recommendation for the road bond. That should already be included in the administrator's packet. On April 21st, at a town council meeting, Scott Walling asked the status of the road use permit. He had asked this a number of times, as well as a number of other people had asked about this, and he was met by silence. That was extremely frustrating to me when I later learned that the next morning, Ms. DiCristofaro texted Scott and advised him the road permit had already been signed by the town administrator, who felt he did not need to consult with the town council. This was interesting because Rebecca is recused from this whole situation, and yet somehow she was the one that knew the road use permit was already signed and in place, and yet no one had the courtesy to tell Mr. Walling the night before he was just as much of a regular citizen as Rebecca.
Mr. Grubb?
Yes.
3 minutes is up.
3 minutes is up. Why not? Anyway, I will stop, but I feel you have cheated the town, particularly the town administrator has cheated the town. They have not given people an opportunity to voice their opinions. The things are tied together. There were questions about the number of trucks on the road. There were questions about what time they start in the morning. There was even an agreement that the quarry would be responsible for any fines associated with breaking those conditions. Well, guess what? There are no fines. I would be responsible for that as well. Big deal. It's a paper tiger, and it's really time to consider what's the welfare of the town of North Smithfield versus our little political agendas and side agreements. Thank you. I hope that fit with your code of conduct.
I would like to make mention that as an abutter to the Pound Hill Road quarry, that I have the right to ask questions about public information.
Also would like to just clarify that following the law, which is what I'm entrusted to do, which is the ordinance, that's what we did. I did consult with our solicitor during the process to make and provided him documentation of which he reviewed and accepted. So I did not do this in a vacuum.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else wish to get up during open forum? What's that? Next item, executive session, closed. Discussion by council vote or other action regarding executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A. Any discussions or considerations related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property wherein advanced public information would be detrimental to the interests of the public. 1, land transfer and solo lease agreement regarding AP Lot 10-218, 0 Manatee Road. Anyone like to make a motion to go into executive session?
I will make the motion to go into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Make a motion to reconvene in open session, indicate that no votes were taken during executive session, and request that the minutes be sealed.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. Christopherow.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Mr. Punchak.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.